in there that at one time was where the fuel tank and the bomb bay was going to, the bomb was going to come out of. Well, you get in after practice supersonic airplane, you find pressure areas move up and down. As speeds change, the bomb bay was going to be a low pressure area right behind it. And whatever block they were going to fly this thing out, there's going to be a low pressure area. The bomb's going to go with it for a while, so they decided they better change something else. So the submarine force eliminated the need for the thing. Became what we call a reconnaissance bird, kind of the Navy version of the SR-71s and the U-2s. I'll pass up a couple of airplanes because our flight line tour will start down here with the Blue Angel F-18 Hornet. The rest of that stuff is getting ready to go in as part of the museum in there, we think. We're not sure. They move that stuff around. I can't keep track of each week. Now, the Blue Angel F-18 is put down here because every Tuesday and Wednesday when the Blues are in town, they put on a practice show for us right out here. At that time, we crank the canopy open on this thing. We've got a ladder. The kids can come in one side, get in the cockpit, get out the other side. Mama can sit there and take their pictures. So they've been flying the F-18 Hornet, but that's what that's all about. Next up to that is a Huey, a little Huey-1 we call it, because a single-engine version. Most of them widely used in the Vietnam conflict. Most of them, you notice, have a little bit longer because we had twin engines on it. But that's a very early version of it that were utilized in the early days of the Vietnam conflict. Number 9 next to it, the kids call it Kermit, as you can well understand with those eyeballs. What you have here is an airplane that's called a Mojave. I think it's kind of the start of the Armies or the Marines, maybe are called Jolly Green Giant concept. In other words, the big heavy haulers that you can handle almost anything with. This thing was designed with the turbo shaft engines as its normal engine component. They were not available, so they went ahead and put it out with the bigger ship engines, very underpowered compared to what it needed. And it wound up hard to ride, a lot of vibration and everything else. Not a good airplane at all. So the side of that thing, you can actually open up a clamshell underneath that number 9. You can drive a Jeep up there. So it's a awful machine, just a mismatch on power. Next to that is, of course, it's got the jets. When we talk about these turbo shaft engines, turbo prop engines, we're talking about a hot section of turbine engine, very small operation that can be used either in a turbo prop or turbo shaft environment. Turbo prop meaning it's on a wing of an airplane, pushing or pulling, and on this thing would be a turbo shaft powering a gearbox on a helicopter. Next to that, though, H-34 is a helicopter that we primarily bought to be utilized in the anti-submarine warfare business. Our first cruise on the Hornet, we had the squadrons of these things with the S-2s. The problem with this thing was it was only capable of flying in the daytime. It didn't take long for the submarine skippers to realize that fact. But we're frantically trying to find something to do the same job in all weather conditions. So that's up the Coast Guard because it was an enlarged version of number 60. Number 60 is what we wound up to replace that with as fast as we could. That was designed so this mission was primarily in a hover condition over the water, 10 or 15 feet in a hover, whatever the guy wanted to die. But 24 hours a day. It's also such a big airplane inside. Once you got all the bugs worked out of it, you could make a VIP airplane out of it real easy. So President Kennedy was the first one to ride in one of those that had been converted from the ASW business into the VIP business. A carry-based helicopter also has a nice feature for press because you got to be able to fold the blades back on it, and pretty well does it mechanically. It doesn't have to be done mechanically, but they can actually fold the blades back inside. So as soon as they land, they need to get off the carrier deck, and that's out of the way. So friendly part of the country, you can do it in that type of airplane. Next airplane we got is a big C-130, says Blue Angels on the back end of it. There's an airplane that we actually wound up that a lot of people don't realize. The Navy, we bought the first ones of these in 1950. They started designing the C-130 back in the 1940s, but they're still building the same shape airplane today. Now the Blue Angels use one of these in the show today, about 3 years past, or 3 models past when this one was built, because you can see this one was built in 1965. We also have the feature that you may have seen the Blues fly, a feature that they call the jet-assisted takeoff for JADO bottle that is shown in this exhibition. Back on the tail end of the quills on this thing, you see 4 bottles hanging on the side of this thing, and on the other side there's 4 more that look like oxygen bottles. What those are is what the jet-assisted takeoff or JADO bottles. They ran out last year, so no one can see it, but it was quite a deal. In other words, they were designed during World War II to get some of these big heavy haulers out of different small airports and different things at that time. But jet-assisted takeoff. The reason this thing sits down here with the bleachers right here is, like I say, every Tuesday and Wednesday morning, I'm on a practice show for us right out here, right, Bar Sherman Field. So it's not uncommon to have 6,000 to 8,000 people. We've had 8,000 people one time last year, but that's just a heap of folks. Normally, on the Tuesday show, not near as big as the Wednesday, because that's the day all the pilots come in the museum and sign autographs for the kids. So really a more popular day, and if you got the kids in there. But it's quite a deal out here. But this is where it all happens. There's 2 teams of us that get involved with having out keep people from getting in trouble. Recommend bring a chair and an umbrella. Bring a chair that you can drag, because that's a long walk with it. You got to carry that thing. It's also hot. And bring some water, really got all that kind of stuff like that. The biggest thing is chair stuff comfortable. We do have a golf cart that you can haul people that can't walk anymore, but as far as it's a walk, quite a long walk from the gate we come through up here. We do the flip crop here because it's got an olive green top of an airplane with a big 1.4 on the tail. This is called a C-46 Curtiss Command boat. Every once in a while I have somebody that's just blowing those things over. And most of them were flown in Southeast Asia down prior to World War II. After World War II was kicked off. This was designed as a high-altitude people in cargo hauler, meaning it's got engines on that thing that you can get going higher and higher, even over reciprocating or piston-type engines, what they call multi-stage blower-type environment. Get going higher and higher. Normally about 12 to 14,000 feet, a normally aspirated engine used to run out of stuff. Well, you can fool it by putting a turbocharged environment in. That's the type of airplane that would be used for that environment there. 821 on the nose of this next airplane. The Navy called this thing an R4D8. Well, really, it's a super DC-3 because the Navy, nobody had any of these things but the United States Navy. But the main thing was, Douglas felt like that he had built so many C-47s and DC-3s in World War II, but the airlines be begging for a more modern version. That's what this thing's supposed to be. The only similarity between this thing and the standard DC-3 is the shape of the fuselage. The main thing was, in wing, tail, and everything else completely different. Let's have our 1820 inches. Of course, the big B-26 tail we talk about. But the problem with this thing was it still has a tail wheel. For airline people, they don't want to have a tail wheel airplane, meaning passenger has to walk uphill to get in a seat. And it just had conveyors around, and Martin built a couple airplanes of the same size that had nose wheels on it. From a pilot point of view, it's a lot more fun to fly, but for people haulers, it's not that good an airplane. Super DC-3 was called. Now the next to it, 798 on the nose of the C-130, just like Fat Albert. But this is the actual airplane that landed on the carrier Forrestal to check the feasibility of whether it could be done or not. That was straight that concept on this thing. But when this thing is touching down on the carrier, it only had 15-foot clearance between the wing tip and the island, so it's a tight squeeze in itself. They had rigged this thing so you could actually start those propellers into reverse mode while it's still in the air, so there'd be time for that when they touch the carrier deck with the wheels, that they got the full reverse power. And so that's how they got this thing stopped. So that's the airplane they did. They started touching goes and basically made some full stops. Quite a deal, but of course they were such a tight squeeze, nobody wanted to try it anymore. Now they flatly did the fly hunt that thing, so that's quite a story in itself. Next to it, though, is PB White Catalina. A lot of people think if we had to have these things when World War II kicked off, we'd have lost the war. Because all you need to land this thing, most of them didn't have any wheels at all. As long as you could find a lagoon or a pond big enough to land this thing and get it back off again and support it with any kind of small boat. So you had the world to operate. In other words, as long as there wasn't any ice on it, you could land this thing, take off wherever you wanted to. PB White Catalina. Now next to it is a PB2. Hold a harpoon, but the main thing was this is a Lockheed built airplane back in the 30s, so that anything was flying when World War II kicked off, we utilized the best way it could. This airplane was actually designed so that it was faster than a Japanese Zero, they claim, at long speeds, but it was too short-legged as far as we needed in the Navy for patrol planes. But it was British a little bit more the British styles because once again short, and it also had some down southeast Asia. The Marine Corps actually made strike aircraft out of it because they say it was awful good and highly maneuverable, but very unwise what they could use it for. PBJ on the next one, peanut butter and jelly. This is an airplane called with MB-22 on it. It's the same airplane that, like Jimmy Doodle, was off the carrier Hornet and dropped a bomb in downtown Tokyo in April 1942. That's less than 6 months after they bombed Pearl Harbor. Did training right in this local area. So from Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, Highway 98 eastbound out of Gulf Breeze, it's called the Emerald Coast Highway today. In 1942, that's a one-lane path. Where Hobart Air Force Base is today, there's a concrete slab over there that they called England 9 at that time. But that's where Doolittle did all of his training. Once he got ready to take over the Lord's ship, they launched out of here, supposedly flying stay below 500 feet, all the way from here to Alameda, California. The joke was you got to climb to get in the landing pattern, and normally it's 1,000 foot downwind. But that's the type of airplane they went out there. Loaded aboard Hornet number 8. The reason I said it like that, I flew up a Hornet 12. So, we find out that 8 was actually sunk still in 1942. And what they did, sunk the 8 so to kind of confuse the issue, they just renamed that aircraft carrier floating. Once again, an SE-class carrier to number 12. So you have 2 Hornets, one 8 and one 12 with World War II experiences. Now 301 is another one-way bomber concept called an A4 Skyhawk, but the initial idea with this thing, hiding as hot rod, has been known as. But the main thing was, into our concept.